So, in general, I definitely feel like we're going through these contractions collectively. Some of you might have seen my video where I talked about the solar flares, the solar storms, all of this fun stuff, and how it literally affects your biological interface because that part is always active. You're always interfacing with the cosmic energy, but you might not realize that you have a choice about how to internalize the effect of this plasma and this radiation. And often, when it makes people feel too radiative, like they're expanding past their ability to integrate those emotions, it's because there's that deeper part that is holding tension, which needs to be resolved. And I want you to feel the whole process is like the universe is breathing in this continual interchange of energies, the inhalation and the exhalation. And it's the primordial basis of our reality, just like all of us are continually in this ebb and flow of the inhale and the exhale. That's not just about the physical process of your lungs taking in that volume and allowing for the relaxation. It's more about you exchanging energy between yourself and your environment. So the inhale is where you're taking in all the feedback. You're taking in experiences. You're taking in energies from beyond you. You're holding also potentially that inhale because you're so used to being the absorber, the energetic sponge, or the one that's taking the experience and just holding the pain, the trauma, whatever the case may be within yourself, that it's difficult for you to process that experience. What's most important to feel into is, are you comfortable transmuting everything that's taken in through that inhalation of energy and connection to yourself, and then transforming all that's inside you into ultimately the exhale that's a relief? The exhale for a lot of people right now feels like it's one of tremendous pain and turmoil and trauma. And that shadow state is so exacerbated because it feels like we've collectively hit the point where we're like enmeshed in the shadow state. People see it on the systemic level, of course, with governments, with people waiting for disclosure. There's like this urge, this desire for everything that's been suppressed and just packed away in the collective unconscious to come out, because we all know deep down it has to rip through the unconscious layer in order for that healing to really happen. Otherwise, we're left with this tormented feeling that something is cast away in the shadows that's preventing us from really being in that collective state of harmony. And so that's also playing out on a very individual level. So it's in your relation to what was once suppressed, buried, and what you feel can't be integrated at all. It's any kind of pain. It's any kind of discomfort with yourself. It's if you feel you don't fit in. It's if you feel there's more that you want to experience in life, but you just don't know how to incorporate that. You might feel like you're either in this breath holding pattern, like you're literally keeping yourself to yourself, and the struggle is real because you know that you need to find a way to integrate more with the world, but you're so used to suppression and to being in the in-between that that feels like your comfortable zone. But it's really like a bracing energy. It's a state where you're just used to insulating yourself and creating whatever internal support is necessary to stay in that place of isolation or alienation. It's not a healthy place to be. And I feel like a lot of people right now are sensing that they can't be in this place anymore. We have to choose resolution. We can't be holding our breath eternally because that's not really the point of life and existence. It's all about taking the energy into yourself and not just holding it, but really processing, what are you holding? Who are you in relation to this energy? What does it really mean for you? If it's creating pain, what does that pain illuminate about who you really are and what needs to be transformed, released, understood, so that it's not recycled into the next iteration of painful cycles or trauma, but instead let go of in a way where your output, that exhalation, turns into true love and not more pain. Ultimately, that process, which I feel is haunting a lot of people collectively, is that pain is always cycling and recycling in every lineage, on the collective systemic levels. And a lot of us are caught up in this loop where we can see and feel that, but we're like stuck in this echo chamber where all we feel is that resistance. And unfortunately, even when you know that and see that, often that's not enough to create the breakthrough. You need to let yourself kind of step back from the pain and the resistance and really evaluate, what do you need to exhale out of your system to experience a transformation? And that transformation is individual for every single person, but always personal, related to what you've been holding and what you feel like you're constantly inhaling, as that's really that common chord, usually between you and your ancestors, you and those people in your life that you've been processing the same exact lessons with, which is why probably you all have felt that my theme lately that I've been showing through my work, through all my content, is almost always about triggers, about the release, about the past integration, because it feels like we are all called to go through that cycle completely. We're not meant to stay stuck in it, but it's an arc of our evolution which can take a really long time to process. And a lot of people right now are disturbed by what that requires for them. So it can make you feel like you're actually unable to integrate the depth of it and to go emotionally into it 100%. So it might bring up the desire to cope, to move into certain negative tendencies, to run away from yourself, to escape, to have these depleting patterns like I can't do it or why me? All of that energy can come up as a really strong test to see, are you going to displace even the past relationship to that same loop by allowing yourself to experience this deeper spiritual pull for the transcendence? And I do feel that right now, it's like the universe is on our side. That's the upside that you can take from the solar flares and all that cosmic radiation. It's like an exacerbant. It's showing you everything that needs to be looked at. And if it feels tense, if it feels overstimulating, then use the energy to actually create that illumination of everything that needs to be transfigured. And you're going to feel like it's much easier actually to process all of these difficult parts. But it feels like to make that happen, all parts of you need to be in alignment with the desire. You can't have anymore like one part of you that isn't all in, that wants the result of healing but doesn't really want to heal, or a part of you that's still trying to procrastinate on the deeper mission work, while another part of you is ready for it and compelling you to move forward. You have to really speak to all those different facets of you, and there could be many, many different complex sides, more than two usually in a lot of people, that might have differing viewpoints, or they're still holding aspects of that unintegrated pain and trauma and perspectives that weren't totally integrated. And we simply can't move forward unless all of those elements come into oneness and agreement. And so it feels like this is what's upon us right now, and it's real serious work. And I'm sure that I'm not surprising most of you guys. You've been feeling it, and it does take a lot of strength to go through this. So the tension is something I want all of you to really feel strongly, because it's a tricky thing. You might associate tension with pain or stagnation or suppression. And usually tension is like this uncomfortable thing that people don't know how to process, because it feels like discomfort that you just need to either allow to transform into something else, or part of you that you don't really know. But tension is a huge sign of where the evolution wants to happen. The exact place, which is like the fertile soil for that transformation. Because imagine, tension is like between 2 points. Imagine you've got like a string in between them, like a string instrument, or 2 points in between them is the place for a bridge to form. When you have tension between the 2 points, that's showing you literally where you need to foster more connection inside yourself. And you can create anything with that tension, right? You can play music with it. You can use that as a destructive element too. It can create so much tension and pull to the point where you have a destruction and a schism forms. But in regards to all of us, I feel the main tension we feel is between where we are currently and the part of our psyche, the part of our soul, our deeper identity structure, which knows exactly what we're here for. So it's an abstract thing, but you'll feel that inside you as where there's more potential for growth, for creation, for acting on your deeper intentions, for knowing more parts of yourself, for showing up in deeper love, or aligning with your own values and your soul wisdom. And you'll feel tension if you're not aligning with that, if you're not doing anything about the arc of growth that's possible for you. You're going to feel it as either a nagging desire to do something about it, or you'll feel complacent, like even if there's some satisfaction with where you are, you'll feel like there's something else inside you that's not completely satisfied or settled with where it is that you are. That's tension. Tension is also in all the different iterations of it. It could be extreme pain, suffering, fear, when you know that there's something more that you want to act on, but it feels tense, so you might track that as resistance and as the cause to sway from that challenge of really stepping into more of your power. But tension is anywhere where there's more that can be achieved and your awareness is needed. So my first encouragement would be, of course, look for where there's tension. It might not necessarily feel like a trigger on the surface, but it's an area where something needs to be evaluated more deeply and really understood. That understanding is like literally where the current of love needs to flow in to unpack that tension. Why is it there? What does it really mean? What's it holding? Is a certain version of you tethered to that tension, which is blocking your evolution or potentially preventing you from moving forward? Because you have to empathize with it and get to the bottom of what it's really holding. And then ultimately, what I feel is super crucial to grasp is that all beautiful things tend to be born from tension. This is like the paradox of life. Most incredible works of art, innovations, all kinds of contributions to humanity were born of that sacred tension. Because the tension is also where you feel like meaning needs to be created. It could be tension between your worldview and what you feel is the status quo in reality. You could feel tense because you feel like what you really would want to give birth to in some kind of creation isn't something that exists. But instead of feeling it's go time to make that happen, you might feel this energy of tension because you've got something novel inside you that you're sitting on. Or you might feel like there's tension as a kind of disobedience to what you're used to your past identity structure, to how people see you, to your life as you know it. All of that newness, which wants to be ignited, first feels like tension because it's you establishing something that goes against the normalcy of your life. And so that's where you can start to translate the tension is actually this good stuff that's showing you where there's innovation to be found and where you get to really rise and explore your best self in a totally new way. So there's a stretching that allows you to open up that frontier of your deeper development. Music, there's the deeper layers too of what's programmed in there and the subliminal programming and the lyrics and the layering of sounds. And it creates so much chaos and dissonance, which is why a lot of people with that very deep pain and trauma, they're drawn to certain music because it keeps them. It's almost like you create the inverse sound bath environment to keep somebody locked in their pain body, and they find the resonance with that. But it's also all about your relationship to the music, I find. Like someone can listen to the same music, which traps somebody in a painful distortion of their experience, and experience something positive. Like, random example, some of you might know I'm a pretty big fan of Depeche Mode, which is crazy. I've been to two of their concerts. The first I went to Madison Square Garden a couple of years ago. I walk into the audience. I happened to go there alone. It was my first concert totally alone. So it was a trippy experience, just that part. And it's like almost all the people in there, I just read the field immediately. Painful energy, gothic type of people. The totally black clothes, the black makeup, the gothic types, punky sort of people, which I don't have any judgment, of course, but it felt painful. And I came in there, I posted a reel about this a couple of years ago. I came in there happy in a little summer dress and just feeling so excited. And yeah, for me, this was like a positive, beautiful day, listening to music that brought me a lot of joy, a lot of connection, and heart opening. And then it just struck me, and I realized, wait a second. I've been perceiving this entire world of music, this like egregore really that they've created with millions and millions of fans around the world, many of whom resonated with the pain in the songs. They, sing about heartbreak and loneliness and a lot of very existential themes. There's some very beautiful tracks they have. But I always found the positive side of it. And for me, because they wrote a lot of their music in painful moments, to me, it was like poetry that allows for the opening of the heart. To me, I enter that zone, I hear that music, and it's intense enough for me to feel kind of that cosmic inhale and exhale. For me, I hear whatever I want to in that music. If there's pain, I can find the resonance and work through it and not stay stuck in it. I'm able to kind of like co-resonate with the intention and more easily transmute it. If there's happiness, I can touch that part where it feels like they're singing about existence, and I'm able to find deeper peace because the music is deep enough that I'm able to find like a space for my own emotions. But I've always found that it has to be that really deep, soul-moving music for me to find a kind of emotional resonance in general with wherever I am. They've got the tracks on YouTube. You can find the 432 hertz tuning. And I've experimented with that too, because what I usually listen to, the standard soundtrack, which would be 440 hertz. And I found that because my relationship to the music is so expansionary because I focus on my own heart field. I found that it creates coherence in either way, which is kind of an interesting observation I had, and maybe it's an unusual thing for you to hear, I'd say, because I totally get your point, and I do my best to listen to harmonizing music. But I'd say, to your point, that the most important music is what soothes you and creates a light impression inside you. Music that doesn't dull your sensation, music that you don't blast to forget yourself or to run away from your pain, or that makes you feel just this darkness and this resonance with that darkness. But what allows you to feel an opening, a kind of blossoming, like parts of you find understanding. You find some kind of beauty, or you're able to understand another soul that created that. And it's like a masterpiece that brings you a portal into consciousness. So music that puts you through that experience, that's what I feel allows for some kind of an awakening encounter within the music. And my music tastes are all over the place. So it's hard for me to say in terms of recommendation, because my recommendation is to be so diverse, like you would be diverse with finding soul connections. It can be any genre. It can be Latin music. It can be 80s music. It can be Mozart. Classical music notoriously has that harmonic basis to it because it's built with those harmonic overtones. And often you'll connect to the music depending on what state you're in. Like more of the minor key music, of course, it sounds sad. It moves you into the kind of lower octave state to resonate with some of those deeper emotions. The major key, you might find like happy music. You're thinking about life and creation and harmony and love and all that kind of stuff. But you might find that you need music at different times to tune your consciousness or to find acceptance of yourself in different states of being. And to me, the healthiest relationship to music is when you move through it. So you don't stay stuck on like one song for a year. You let yourself experience the whole palette of musical tastes and frequencies. And you can sense also what state you're in based on what music you're constantly connected to. So, like, I personally know if I'm listening to something that's a little bit more of like a painful song, I of course ask myself, like, why are you stuck in this state? Why is this what you're resonating with? And you don't feel a desire to shift. I know that when I shift into a different genre or a different mood, when the vibe changes, I know that I'm transmuting, and I allow that movement to kind of take me into another facet of my awareness. So, but also I think different instruments are different, like flavors of consciousness too. String instruments for one kind of experience. Some people find like trumpets, they can create a kind of heart chakra awakening based on the particular frequencies that you need to tune yourself to. So I would suggest looking at music, like I said, more as a frequency tuning opportunity and to sense what creates in you a feeling of that expansion. And even if it creates a little bit of a nervous system tension, a little bit of like maybe something is closed or it's a little bit different for you to listen to this kind of music, just listen and see how it affects your feeling state. See what it moves inside you energetically. See if it allows you to sense life and yourself a little differently. And then, of course, the different kinds of binaural beats and frequency tracks are very helpful. And they also need to be felt because they're like musiceuticals, like pharmaceuticals, but in the musical department. They affect you in all kinds of different ways. And sometimes just listening to that, it brings awareness of what needs to be focused on more deeply. Because if it resonates deeply, then that's what's really something you're tuned into in the moment of now. Kind of translate music to vibration or to frequency. The first thing it makes me think of are the sounds of nature. Like, let's go back to the very beginning. When people interfaced with nature and felt connected to this oneness, when all beings saw Mother Earth as like their mother, as this is the ecosystem that gives us life. So all sounds create that reality of either safety or tension. Like when lightning was seen as a god, right? Like Zeus getting angry and the thunder creates this feeling of tension, which physically our nervous system will go through that kind of polarizing response. You guys might feel sometimes before a storm, you will feel a kind of tension in your body because you're already picking up on that information. The electromagnetic field is charged, and when you physically feel that thunder, it reverberates through your body, and you might find yourself holding yourself a little bit if you're someone who's very sensitive to that kind of a sound. You might also feel the opposite when you're listening to a stream of water, like water hitting pebbles, one of the most Zen sounds imaginable. You might feel this relaxation. this super deep calm because you're synchronizing with that sound. And guess what? It also puts you more in your yin element automatically because you're experiencing the flow with the sound of that vibration. There's also in nature these ratios that are emulated by harmonic overtones in music. And so, what that makes me think of, Anna, are the bells that were all over Europe back in the day. There's still some out there. I'm sure you guys know, but at a certain point, a lot of them were destroyed, sadly. A lot of the huge bells that created like basically sound baths for entire towns were just melted down for metals. And it's just such an interesting thing to ponder. What were those bells initially meant for? Were they creating a kind of sound environment that harmonized the entire civilization? They certainly had the ability to create synchronization because that's something that's a proven fact. The harmonic overtones in bells, just like when you've got sound bowls, they can put you in a brainwave theta state. They encourage deep relaxation, synchronization on a collective scale. And so if you have, let's say, hundreds or thousands of people listening to the same bell sounds, you'll have nervous systems operating more in synchrony, which means you have collective intention reverberating throughout the entire field. And those mechanical waves are creating that oneness. So a lot of us are discounting the importance, I feel, of creating an environment where we create those frequencies. Just like you might know that when babies in the womb, they listen to Beethoven or Mozart music, the same thing happens. This promotes very deep calm and coherence, not just because the mom is listening to that and she's experiencing calm, which calms the baby, but there's also been experiments where they put the headphones right on the mom's belly, and then the baby's experiencing that calming down. The heartbeat slows, the child is already experiencing a kind of in utero safety and love because the music is harmonic. Those frequencies are creating ripples that feel like a loving environment. So often the binaural beats that are 528 hertz, 432 hertz, I've talked about that lots as you guys know. I love these sounds because they don't feel like sounds. They feel like ripples of love. They fill your field with that feeling of deep contentment and coherence. And you can organize your emotional state more easily when you're listening and feeling that. So it creates an atmosphere to allow for release and that deeper harmony inside yourself. The cells are super responsive to that. All parts of the system, from the cellular level to the level of your heart field and your brain, that's what guides coherence. So the more that you listen to and create that kind of effect of a vibrational, coherent, harmonic environment, the more easy it is to stay in a state of coherence.